To this Belly Up Media production. Some said we'd go belly up, so we made it our name. And we're still here.
The following announcement has been paid for by the Scoreboard Addicts podcast.
And here we are. I'm Matt. This is Sal. While it's not Monday, today is Thursday, and here we are, your Rasslin Addicts. And holy shit, has it been a week?
It's been a roller coaster week, especially for me. I've been doing live coverage for Wrestling Inc. since last week, so it's tonight's the first night I haven't done any coverage, so I get a little rest tonight from wrestling.
Yeah, between work, school starting again,
Yeah,
we had Raw, SmackDown, Clash at the Castle, All Out. It's been a lot, and we almost didn't do a show today, but
yeah,
there's just been so much that's happened that we would just be super far behind, and I am interested to hear your opinion on things. I want to hear the millions. Well, not millions, but I want to hear the fans that listen. I want to hear what they think of everything going on. I'm going to tweet out that we're going live so people could give us a listen. So do you want to start with, let's start with All Out, because I know that was the later of the pay-per-views, but I think it was
you
the
can
most.
Say that again. You can say later again. Sunday was a interesting day for me. I did live coverage for Wrestling Inc. for till like 3:30 all the way till 11:30. It was insane. I did the NXT pay-per-view Worlds Collide, which was a decent show, but
I forgot about that actually.
Yeah, it's NXT, but it was a decent show. I would shout out one match on that show that I suggest everybody watch is Carmelo Hayes and Ricochet. That was a banger. I mean, that was such a good match. If anybody hasn't watched that match, go watch it, because it was a hidden gem of the weekend. I'll put it that way. But then we got to All Out, which started at 7:00. The pre-show that they called 0 Hour started at 7, and I'll just put it this way, that they could have did away with that. The matches on that show just were mediocre. I don't know if you saw clips of it on Twitter or anything like that, but you had Eddie Kingston versus Tomohiro Ishii, which is a guy from New Japan.
Okay.
And wasn't great. Wasn't my type of match that I enjoy. You had Sammy Guevara and Ty Conti, or Ty Mello, against Ortiz and Ruby Soho, which was a botch fest that ended up in Ruby Soho getting her nose broken. So
she's lucky it was only her nose, because the way that clip that I saw where Ty kicked her in the head and then Sammy just dropped her. She landed on her neck.
She's lucky she didn't break her neck. And I saw that during my coverage, and I said, oh my God, this show is starting off with a broken neck. But lucky for her, she didn't break her neck, but she broke her nose. And what other match was on that? Pac versus Kip Sabian, which was a throwaway match. It was it was all right for what it was. But then we got to the main show, and we started off with the casino ladder match, and obviously at the end we all know what happens. You know, the Joker comes out with a mask, and Stokely Hathaway and his faction help him win the chip, and we don't know who is under the Joker mask. Everybody can assume it's MJF, and it was obvious. I mean, we all knew it was MJF, but I just thought this was just a brutal way to bring back MJF after all of this. This is what they came up with. I wasn't a fan of it.
So I agree with you on that. It just seemed so out of place because after what was it, May or June when he did that pipe bomb?
It was June 1st. Yep.
June 1st he does that, and then
Yep.
you don't hear anything from him at all.
Radio
They don't
silence.
even mention him. Did they even mention him on Dynamite at all, or?
Nope. We haven't heard a word from him since June 1st.
So June, July, August, September, pretty much he had the whole summer off.
Yeah, that was it.
Like the one thing that I did like, the most was, you know, at the end when Punk won and they did the big reveal that it was MJF. I liked the voicemail from Tony Khan that they played. The only reason why I like it is because it wouldn't have made any sense at all for him to say everything he did and then to come back out of nowhere and be like, "Yes, I'm gonna win this bootleg Money in the Bank match." And
yeah,
so like for me, it gave a little closure on because I want to say Punk fucked everything up. To be honest, I mean, I don't want to jump ahead, but to talk about MJF right now, I feel like it would have been good if everything that happened after the show didn't take place.
Oh, it would have been perfect. The MJF and Punk storyline continues. It's the best thing that CM Punk has done with AEW was that storyline with MJF. That was gold. That did the most ratings AEW has seen since then. And obviously we know we'll get to it, but we know where that's going now. But the whole voicemail thing with Tony, I liked it, but you just knew it was going to be MJF after the first, like, the casino, the ladder match, and you see him walk out, and you know it's him. It's his mannerisms, the way he walks. You could tell just the body figure. It's him. You were expecting it to be him. Imagine if you didn't know it was him at all. You didn't know he was showing up, and he just comes out and, like, almost like a Scott Hall moment, just walks down from the crowd and just, you know, attacks Punk and Moxley and creates chaos. I wanted chaos, and he just
you got it. There was definitely chaos.
There was chaos, but I popped. Everybody, but the place went insane. The place came unglued when MJF came out at the end of the night and revealed himself. But
yeah, dude, as soon as he put the scarf, like, first of all, you knew it was him. You knew it was him by looking at the back of his head. But then when he put the scarf on, then it was like, oh shit, like, it's going down.
I get why they did the whole ladder match thing and had him come out, because he has to get a way to get a title match. Tony's not just going to give him a title match, but now he's this heel who has this, you know, casino chip of, like you said, a bootleg Money in the Bank briefcase. I guess that, but there was ways you could have done it better, I guess. It just fell flat. I mean, the crowd was like what the heck? Like they were like silent when that whole Joker came out, and you have Stokely Hathaway and his group. What is MJF a part of that group? Like I don't
So
know.
the way, because what
It was just
Stokely was randomly handing out cards to people, right?
yeah. He was
For
randomly handing out cards.
how long has he been doing that for?
Oh, I'd say maybe 2 months, maybe.
2 months. So to me, because I only watched the opening promo of Dynamite last night. I had a fantasy draft that got fucked up because Yahoo is the worst platform to use for fantasy sports, and it took
I use
a little
I use the ESPN app.
longer. You know what? I use Sleeper for a few leagues, and it's pretty good. The Sleeper app. I actually get breaking news notifications before like ESPN or like Bleacher Report would tweet it out. So, or I would
Yeah.
get those updates, but it because of that fiasco, I wasn't able to fully watch Dynamite. I was busy working today, so like it just seemed that they didn't follow up with.
I mean, Stokely, I'll say this, Stokely and his faction came out and did like a 2-minute segment at the top of the ramp, and like it was Stokely and his faction with the most random people in the world, Ethan Page, uh, Morrissey, and the Gunn brothers now, and they have Lee Moriarty
No,
out
I'm
there.
sorry. The Ass
Ass Boys.
Boys. The Ass
The
Boys.
Ass Boys. Now that they're heels, they're calling themselves the Gunn brothers, but it's just, and they did some stupid thing. They attacked some production assistant or something. It's just so stupid. I don't know what they're doing with
I
that whole thing.
see. I feel like it's a missed opportunity because if you had Stokely going around handing out cards, recruiting different people, I mean, Big Cass, MJF brought him into AEW. So
Right.
like it kind of would have made sense that, you know, MJF had Tony Khan by the balls. He ended up
Hmm.
giving
Right.
him the money he wanted, put him in the ladder match. So like
Hmm.
I would have did almost like a $1 million man type of thing to where MJF was paying these people to do his bidding,
I mean,
but like
maybe.
follow up with it, like have something to where MJF is giving Stokely like a duffel bag. Because like if you're gonna do like the little thing to where you're playing the voicemail, just so there's like it makes sort of sense to why MJF wasn't on TV for 3 months or why he wasn't even mentioned. Like that's why I appreciated the voicemail because it was like, oh, okay, so they were negotiated,
Right.
which is why he hasn't been around. Because to me, like, and we said this before in other episodes, it was getting cold. You had this fire
Yeah.
promo that everybody was talking about, and then like you didn't even announce that he was being suspended. Like you should have did something like that because when you blur the lines too much, it may lead people to think, oh, maybe MJF really said that. Is he
Right.
coming back? But that's okay when it's an actual work. But then when you have what happened after the show, people thought all that was a work. I was reading on Twitter. Someone's like, the whole thing is a work. Tony Khan was sitting right next to Punk when he was saying everything.
Oh, you're talking about
Not for the scorum.
oh yeah, none of that.
None of that was none
That's
of
a
that
bit.
was a
Yeah.
work. But like for me, it's I liked that they did that little thing for MJF
Yeah.
because
No.
it
I,
made you think, oh, okay, Tony Khan is his bitch and he gave in.
yeah.
So let's see where this goes.
Let's see where it goes. He had a great promo last night. MJF works the crowd like no other. I mean,
Oh,
he's a master at working the crowd, and I'm happy he's back. Obviously, right now, and we'll get into it, but right now they need MJF because boy, oh boy, a lot going on. But yeah, I wasn't crazy about the way they brought him back, but I'm at the point where I'm just happy he's there.
Yeah. And
um,
he's definitely needed.
oh
And his promo last night, he not many people, past, present, current, are able just to have the audience in
no,
the palm of their hand like he does. And I thought for like a hot second, I'm like, oh, is he going to be a babyface because of everything happening? He's going to come in or like be like in the middle in a
I
way.
knew I was waiting. As I was doing covers, I was like, yeah, all right. I was like, all right, they're gonna send somebody out there. It's either gonna be Danielson or Moxley, and it turned out to be Moxley. And I give Moxley crap sometimes, but yeah, what a promo! I mean, that was a passionate promo. It kind of was like, everybody else, is gone, and I'm here. I'm the one taking the ball. I'm the one that's gonna lead this company, and good for him. I'm not crazy about his wrestling style, but um, good for him. I thought he did a good promo last night.
It's funny you say that because as he was cutting that promo, it like it was almost like uncharacteristic for him. Meaning, like
Yeah,
he definitely gives passionate promos, but he very rarely gives like the leader of the locker room promo. I feel,
right. Yeah, he
like
he
God,
did a good job. He did a good job. He took the bulls by the horn. Somebody needed to, and you know he he did a hell of a job. He brought the audience back, and um, good for him. Like I said, I'm not the biggest Moxley fan in the world. I'm not crazy about his wrestling style, but you know, I'm interested to see where this all goes with him.
it's definitely going to be interesting. And I mean, all right, so let's talk about how the show started. Did the show start with Tony Khan and that
You're talking about
recorded?
Dynamite?
Yeah, Dynamite. Yeah.
Yeah, they did a little video package recapping the MJF return, and then it went. Commentary was like, okay, address from Tony Khan, and then you see Tony Khan in a pre-tape reading off a teleprompter, and
Oh, absolutely. You could easily tell he was. Listen, I'm
oh,
not
you could
saying he
see
shouldn't
you. Could,
be.
no, he should be because he's horrible on the mic. I'm
Oh,
sorry, he's horrible. I'm
I
happy this was a pre-tape.
I think he's just horrible in general because it's what it is. It's almost like you're hanging out with the boss's son and not the boss.
Oh
It's
well,
almost like
yeah.
a young Shane McMahon type of thing when WrestleMania 14, Mike Tyson is, in the main event of WrestleMania with Shawn Michaels and Austin. And I, listened to the Bruce Pritchard podcast and just other documentaries that Shane hung out with Mike Tyson leading up to that.
Yeah, you
And
saw him in the Rumble. I think it was Rumble '98, and they showed Shane hanging out with Tyson and stuff like
yeah,
that. Yep.
so like you had that, like the way that relationship probably was, like Tyson wouldn't have with Vince. And I feel like how they're going
Mm.
out, they're partying. I don't think
Oh
Vince is going to
yeah.
be partying with like, Mike Tyson, or the way Tyson would act with Vince wouldn't be like with Shane. And not just to get too out there, just like seeing to talk about, the scarring, I guess. Just I don't think anyone respects Tony Khan in a
Oh,
way.
not anybody in the world. And
But the people that need to
he
respect him are the people that he hands paychecks to, the people that
yeah.
wrestle for his company. And he doesn't know how to drink out of a fucking water bottle. Get the guy a straw. He doesn't know how to speak, how to conduct himself. It's super unprofessional. He's not the boy. You're not boys with these guys. You're not a fucking fan. You're the boss.
Yeah, he acts like a fan, which is nice. We're all fans of wrestling. I'm happy the owner is a fan of what he owns. But at some point, you have to act like a boss, and he just doesn't. I'm sorry. He sat there while CM Punk went on this diatribe and did not do a single thing to stop it. Didn't say, okay, like let's stop or cut his mic off or stop him in his tracks. He did nothing. He sat there and made weird faces. That's all he did. And it looked horrible on his end. It made the company look horrible. And can you imagine Vince McMahon or Triple H or Stephanie McMahon? Hell, even Nick Khan. Can you imagine any of those people just sitting there and allowing CM Punk to just go on that ridiculous rant that he went on? I don't see any of that happening.
I'm glad you said that because I was talking to other people about it, a few of my friends, and I'm like, dude, imagine after Clash at the Castle, fucking Triple H is sitting there and Roman started doing that. Like, what do you think would happen?
Triple H.
What do you think would happen?
Triple H doesn't even sit next to the performer. He sits at the end of the table, out of the picture, while the talent is front and center like it should be. He's off to the side, sitting at the end of the table where he can't be seen, and the talent is in the middle. That's the way it should be. The owner doesn't have to be sitting right there. Let your talent do. I don't know. Just the Tony Khan with these weird faces, and it's just ridiculous.
You're absolutely right though, because do you see his dad on the fucking sidelines every Sunday for the Jaguar game?
No.
Do you see his dad sitting next to fucking Trevor Lawrence getting, before he goes into the game? Like it just it doesn't make sense, and it's not. It's a big problem. Obviously,
it's a big problem, and that pre-tape
down.
The pre-tape that he did last night was fine. The only thing a little nitpicking, you're just gonna ignore. You just said, "Well, I had to, unfortunately," or whatever he said, vacate the world title and the trios titles. Okay, well, why? Like, let your audience know. Like, and I understand there's legal problems right now. You probably can't say why, but just say due to backstage fallout. You could have said due to backstage fallout with the champions, I had to unfortunately vacate the title.
Yeah,
he could have just said something like that. He just said, "Oh, I have to vacate the titles," and I don't know, but that's just a nitpicking part of it.
No, you know what? I agree with you on that because, all right, look at it this way: when one of the Usos get a DWI, they're off TV, they get suspended. But at least, when the news does break, WWE doesn't play stupid about it. They'll be like, due to the actions of, and they'll like give their real name.
Yeah,
they're suspended. We don't like
anything.
These are not actions that the WWE believes in. Shit like that. Like every single fucking person on the planet knows what happened. I don't know if it's maybe just because of what I tweet, what I look at, but even on like
a majority of the audience is going to know what happened. But like, say you're a casual viewer, or say you don't live on the internet, or you don't, maybe you deleted Twitter, maybe you don't have Twitter anymore.
Yeah, but
I know you can Google it or something like that, but it would have been nice for him to just say anything like, just due to backstage fallout with the champions, I must vacate the belts. Something like that. I
agree. Don't play stupid.
Yeah, it's just
you're gonna sit there and let everything go down the way it went down, but then you're gonna be like with your fucking googly eyes bouncing all over the place.
And, I give Tony credit he did vacate the belts, which was the right thing to do. But I don't know, just throw something in there like, "Oh, due to backstage," acknowledge it, acknowledge that it happened. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know, maybe it's the best that he didn't. Maybe I don't know, but um, that scrum was just. Did you watch any of it
Um,
or parts of it at least?
so I watched part of it because like everybody was talking about it. So like I heard about it like the next morning. But real quick before we get into it, it's going to take a quick commercial break for our audio listeners, and we'll get into CM Punk and everything that he said in a moment because we will be right back. And we're back. All right. Thank
Yeah.
you very much, everybody, for continuing to stay and listen to us. So after the 7-hour extravaganza of All Out, they had their post media press conference, and I didn't hear about everything that happened until I woke up the next morning or probably late that night. Honestly, I don't really remember because I was just so like for me, and like I was texting you early in the week,
Mhm.
I didn't understand what caused all of this because in reality, it happened 2 weeks ago. I feel like when Punk went into business for himself, when he called out Page, Adam Hangman Page in his
Mm,
hometown, he didn't answer,
I
called him a
was
coward.
the whole Page stuff, that's only part of it.
Right,
It's
but I
still
feel like that was the first domino in a way, maybe because
in a
I
way,
I went back and I listened to it, what Paige was saying, and you know what? I don't necessarily think he was fully wrong. I don't think he said anything bad. All he said
no.
was he's here to protect AEW from him,
People have said a
and
lot worse.
I don't really think he was wrong.
Go
No,
watch the
absolutely.
Eddie King
People definitely said a lot worse, and
Go watch
like
the Eddie Kingston promo. Go watch an MJF promo about Punk, an Eddie Kingston promo about Punk. They tore into him. Page said a few lines. That's all. It's all has to do with Colt Cabana. It's all it has to do. And Colt Cabana is friends with the Elite, and he's friends with Adam Page. And Punk thinks that the Elite is spreading rumors to the media that Punk got Cabana fired. That's what all this is about. Adam Page is only a
who,
part of it.
but who like I don't see how it all blew up like this. Like to me, it just
It's because
seems
CM Punk.
yeah,
Just because we're
because
dealing with CM Punk.
this is what Punk did. For those who could see my shirt, I'm wearing the Stone Cold shirt. Arrive, raise
Yep,
hell, and leave.
that's
That's
basically what he
exactly
did.
what Punk did.
That's exactly what he did. Anybody else, if this wasn't CM Punk, this would no one. It wouldn't have been blown out of proportion because we're dealing with CM Punk, and apparently he is sensitive of. I guess to only certain people because he wasn't sensitive with Eddie Kingston. He wasn't sensitive with MJF, and MJF brought up Colt Cabana in a promo. So I don't understand his gripe. I really don't. And listen, I'm not a Punk and the Elite are not personal favorites of mine. I enjoy their work in the ring. I think they're good performers, but it's just too much drama with all of them. It's just becoming ridiculous, and it's destroying AEW.
Oh yeah, AEW is a mess right now, and you know, it's because of Tony Khan in a way because
Oh
he allows
yeah,
that shit to happen.
he's not acting like a boss. That's why.
If like imagine I went on a rant and said that the EVPs of my company are all fuckheads and could barely manage a fucking target. Like,
You get fired.
absolutely.
Yeah.
How? Listen, and
And he might get fired. We don't know. I don't know what the deal with Punk is. Right now, it sounds like he has an injury. He has a pec injury, so he's going to be out no matter what. So I don't know what they're doing with Punk. Obviously he's suspended, but is he getting fired? I don't know. I don't know what's happening.
you know how Tony Khan could be taken seriously if you want. If being that Punk felt the need to air dirty laundry out in the middle, of the scrum, the press conference, whatever. Tony Khan needs to publicly fire him. There needs to be.
Oh,
I
that'll
don't mean
never
like
happen.
Vince McMahon style, but when I mean publicly, I mean it needs to not be just swept under the rug and be like, oh, CM Punk has been
He'll
released.
he'll
Fire
he'll
him.
if he actually goes through with firing him, it'll be a tweet. We've come to terms with CM Punk, or we're letting him go, or something like that. It'll be a tweet, and then you'll never hear it. You'll never hear about CM Punk ever again in AEW, because not for nothing, they didn't mention Punk or the Elite at all last night. They took
Which
him out
I
of the
thought was
intro.
weird.
I thought was odd, but at the same time, these legal issues are what's, I think, keeping people more quiet because of this whole brawl that happened in the locker room. And obviously, everybody knows by now. So there's a brawl in the locker room. Punk was in his locker room, and the Elite come banging down his door, or at least that's what's being said.
I mean, rightfully so.
I would be mad if somebody told me that I don't know what I'm doing, and we're just a bunch of idiots, and we don't even know how to run a target. I think I'd be pretty mad. I don't know. And from the Elite side, or at least this is what's being reported, the Elite are saying that they handled it much more professionally. And then once they got in that locker room, Punk started a ruckus. So you don't know who to believe at this point. All I know is Ace Steel bit Omega and pulled his hair, and one of the Young Bucks got knocked out and with a chair, and it's just a big mess.
I had no idea who the fuck Ace Steel was.
Nobody
until
does.
He grabbed that contract.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, I couldn't even. If you asked me who Ace Steel was, I would have been like, "Who?
Who? Yeah,
Who?
exactly. I'm still
Who?"
saying that. Who?
I'm still trying to figure out who the heck he is, but I don't think we need to know anymore because he's probably out. He's probably gonna get fired. He's suspended at least, but
Yeah,
he's definitely gone. You can't be biting people and throwing chairs at people's heads.
definitely not.
Jesus, no. So that's just a catastrophe. But one of the things from the scrum that's being lost in all this is Jericho.
Yes, I wanted to get into that. Go ahead, take it away.
Jericho said something, and it was right next to Tony Khan. He said, and this was all about the going into business for yourself. And he had the best quote. He said, from where I came from, working for Vince for 20 years, that would never have happened. It wouldn't even have been a thing. And, Tony Khan's just sitting there, and I'm just like, oh, I wonder what he thinks about that comment. Because, Jericho's saying that, and his current boss is right next to him. But Jericho didn't tell a lie. It wouldn't have happened during Vince.
No way. It wouldn't happen now. Even without
now.
Vince there.
It just because WWE is ran by people that, know what they're doing. At least they know what they're doing, and are professional.
Yeah.
At least on camera.
So, like, do you think that? I mean, they can't get rid of the Bucks and Omega.
At this point, it's 2022 in the wrestling world has been insane. So I genuinely don't know. If they get rid of the Elite, there's going to be some pissed off fans because the company is literally called All Elite Wrestling for a reason. Because, Omega and the Bucks and Cody. I mean, Cody's not there anymore, but they all created this. This is their company. I mean, Tony Khan owns it, but this was their idea. This was, their company that they built from the ground up. So I don't see how you can get rid of them, but you might strip them of the EVP titles,
You
like
know
maybe
what?
of their EVP stature.
If I'm them, it's either I come back as EV because you know what? While Tony Khan may be the financial backing, those guys, along with Cody and you could say Jericho too, they're the
Mm.
ones that really got AEW started. It was their
Oh
vision, it
yeah,
was their idea. Tony Khan is just some rich make-a-wish guy who has fucking money and is, backing them up. Like,
yeah,
like for me, regardless of what happened after the scrum, Punk is completely at fault for everything that he said. What
oh
Adam
yeah.
Page said in the ring, like he never mentioned, I don't think he did. He never mentioned Colt Cabana's name. All he did was,
I
unless I
guess
missed
Punk
it.
alluded to it. I guess Page alluded to it, but he never came out and said Colt Cabana's name.
Yeah.
He brought up, how he was going to save AEW from Punk, and he brought up the workers' rights line, which was, he said something like, "You always talk about workers' rights, but you're not doing anything to help it," or something like that, something along the lines of that. But there wasn't anything extreme. It just felt
He
like they
wasn't
were
wrong.
selling a pay per view. He was selling a pay per view match. I don't
And
understand what the problem was.
and he wasn't wrong either. Page really
Yeah,
wasn't wrong.
no, and that's the problem with Punk. It's just everywhere he goes, he's the cancer. He's just the cancer of every company he goes to. This is not the first time this is something like this has happened, where CM Punk just says, you know, complains and moans and groans, and it's getting so old. I think if I'm Punk, just go home. Really, just go home and get out of this whole wrestling stuff. If this is how you're gonna act, if you're gonna act unprofessional and put a bad name on AEW, a bad name on Tony Khan, then just go. You know, leave wrestling alone at this point.
I agree. I agree. And it's he's a walking contradiction, CM Punk.
Yeah, he's
Like,
just
he says he's straight edge. He doesn't drink, doesn't do drugs, but he'll drink coffee. There's caffeine in coffee. So you do drugs. Second of all, you're going to sit up there and say that you work with children, and then you're going to cry, moan, bitch, and
yeah,
curse like a child yourself.
yeah. It was just so ridiculous, and it makes everybody look bad. It really does. And you know what? Punk is their biggest box office draw, and that's why it's so difficult to fire him because
You know
there's
why?
nobody that compares to him right now. Maybe MJF, he brings in numbers. Jericho, Danielson, Mox, but nobody brings in numbers like him. Nobody, merchandise wise, viewership wise, he's their man, and it's a
That's
tough loss for
pathetic.
them.
That's pathetic that this 45 little bitch is this brand new company's man. Like he's their guy, which to me makes no sense because he's a selfish piece of shit, and it showed Fred. I don't like CM Punk. I like him in the ring. I like he like as a person, no. And I'm going based off that one
I think
interaction I had with him.
a lot of people in AEW would agree with you.
Yeah, and you know what? At that point, you got to go. If he's your biggest draw, that's also your biggest problem because you started this company
Oh
from
yeah,
the bottom up. You have opportunities to make anyone you want into a fucking star.
not with the booker that's in
MJF,
place.
and that's the problem.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, oh the wrestlers write their own script. They write their own storylines. Listen, you you can't do things like that. Like you think now in WWE with Triple H in charge that there's no promo
No,
scripts at all. I
there's
mean, there's
still a
bullet points. You know,
yeah.
there's because you see the change. You see the change with people. You know, Drew McIntyre calling Roman the the tribal queef. Dude, that would not have happened in March or April, but it could happen
No,
now because you're giving them a little leeway, which is what
it's just
WWE needs because they were so structured. AEW needs some structure and it needs to have like put Regal in charge. Yo, put Regal in
they
charge of
have Siobhan.
something.
Apparently, Shivani is Tony's right hand man. That's what I'm hearing, and
I
I
like
don't
Tony
have a.
Schiavone.
I like Tony Schiavone, but you have Jim Ross sitting right next to him. And Jim Ross has been in that position before. He worked for talent relations and
But
hired
you know
some of
what?
the best people in the world and brought in some of the best talent, hired Mick Foley and all these guys, and
The
you
Hardy
have him
Boys.
sing right the Hardy Boys, Edge, all these people, and you pick Tony Schiavone over Jim Ross. Jim Ross is sitting right there. Maybe Jim Ross doesn't want to do it anymore. He's too old, but I
I
don't
could see that.
know.
I could see Jim Ross not wanting to do it because even with his commentary, it sounds like he doesn't want to do it sometimes.
He's
But
done. He's done. He knows all this is baloney.
oh, do you? He's also probably saying to Jericho, he goes, "You think this shit would happen with Vince or even
No,
Hunter?"
Jericho. No, Jericho said it himself. He knows that this stuff wouldn't be happening with Vince, and for some reason, he lets Tony Khan just, just lets him do it. I don't know. People are saying that Jericho's now like the leader of the locker room. Well, you better start leading.
But you know what though? How much can the guy do? You know,
Well, yeah.
Tony's the boss. Jericho could say whatever he wants till he's blue in the face, but if Tony Khan is gonna jump up and down like a stupid fucking fanboy when Samoa Joe walks out and makes his debut, you sign the guy. You saw him in the back. You
It's
look like
bad.
an idiot. You look like a
Yeah.
fool.
It's just what bothered me the most was the faces during the scrum when Punk is just going on this ridiculous rant, and he's just sitting there making faces and not saying anything. If that was Vince McMahon would have grabbed that microphone and would have threw it across the room,
Absolutely.
and he
He
would have
would have
said,
stood up
"Okay,
and be like, "All right, everybody, thanks for coming. I appreciate it.
it,
Do a little this, cut the mic." But Tony sitting there was like an adult watching their kid, a parent watching their kid play with matches, and then like they light the whole book on fire and they drop it on the floor and they're like, "Holy shit, the house is burning down."
yeah."
But I'm gonna sit here and stare at you because I love you and I'm obsessed with you.
It's because he doesn't want to upset his box office star, and that's all what it comes down to. And
Make a new star. Make a new
yes, yeah,
star.
yeah, and I don't think Tony has the booking capabilities of doing that.
Get
Look at
someone who
somebody
can.
like yeah, that's what Tony said he ain't gonna let anybody book his show but himself. Um, Look at somebody like Wardlow, what they've done to him. What they have done to him is like criminal. He was the biggest star at the start of this summer. He was the biggest star in wrestling. And then, like 2 weeks later, he was just another guy on television, and that's what he is now. And they tried to get some of his get something back last night with having him have a squash match and then cut a promo, but yeah, they're gonna need a few more weeks of
What was his
that.
promo about? What was his promo about?
He went on saying he hears people on the internet, saying that he should do this, he should do that, but he's still Wardlow or something like that. Something along the lines of that. He hears the people whispering and saying stuff on the internet and about how he should do this and that. I don't know, but what Tony has
What?
done is just so bad, so
If
bad
I'm
for
Wardlow,
Wardlow.
I'm picking up the mic and I'm cutting a promo like this. How long has he been TNT champion for?
Since maybe June,
June.
July.
So I pick up the mic and I'm like, you know what? I've been TNT champion since June, And every other title has been vacated more times than I defended this title on pay-per-view.
All of a sudden, Tony doesn't care about the TNT title. So I don't know. He keeps making other titles, but then forgets that he has titles already. I don't know what he's doing. It
He doesn't
makes
know
me
what
just
he's doing.
I just want to shake him. I want to just be like, "Hello, are you awake?" Like you
No,
have.
because then he'll get more fucking brain damage because apparently that's what he's suffering from. Because you had, like you just said, Wardlow was the biggest thing in wrestling. MJF was also the biggest thing in wrestling. Those could have been your two pillars to AEW. Those could have been your guys. Omega's established already. The Bucks are established already. Mox is, Brian is, Jericho is, even Old Man Punk is. All of these are established guys. And listen, I'll be the first to tell you, seeing the ex-WWE guys, and I like MJF, I like the Acclaimed. Those would.
Claims are great.
I love the Acclaimed.
Great, and that match was fantastic.
I have to go back and watch that because
you got to go back and watch that.
I'm a big
and
fan.
The fact that they didn't call an audible in that match and put the titles on them was just horrible. The crowd wanted them to win. That would have been the pop of the night if they won that. And instead they go and have Swerve and Keith Lee, who are a makeshift tag team, win the belt.
From where?
From WWE. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I know they're having a rematch, but
for as big as a fan Tony Khan is a wrestling, it's astonishing that he doesn't understand the history. And people who don't understand history are doomed to repeat it. WCW, TNA. Like, you're gonna end up grouping AEW within those two other companies.
I was thinking of, you bring a good point. I was thinking of Sting, and poor Sting. Sting saw WCW crumble to the ground and had chaos backstage. Then he goes to TNA, and that was a mess. And he saw that company go under. And now he's in this company, and this company's in disarray. And they're not going to go under, not yet, at least. But poor Sting. I feel so bad for him. Where he goes, it's just a mess.
Sting should have stayed in WWE, especially now.
Sting should have stood with his Legends contract and just hung out.
I just stop. And it's so complicated too, because the same people who would be like, oh, enough with Goldberg and all Brock and all these part-timer guys are the same people who watch AEW and they're in love with Punk, they're in love with Mox. I don't care if you're there every single week. Everyone's going to be a former guy. I want to say 8 out of 10 people, if you group them together, are going to be former guys from somewhere else. But
if you think about it, the only homegrown talent that they have gotten over would be, MJF, but he started in MLW, but still, he's an AEW product that they got over. And maybe Darby. That might be the only Wardlow at this point, I wouldn't put him in that category because they botched him up. But those might be the only 2 people that they are homegrown AEW stars. And that's about it.
So I didn't know MJF with where was he from? You said
MLW.
MLW.
Mm-hmm.
So and you never really hear that either. You don't even hear, oh, he's a TNA guy. It's always their ex WWE guys. So
90% of their companies ex WWE guys then.
Now they are, yeah. But MJF, Darby, Wardlow, even Britt Baker. That could have been your 4 pillars to build your company around. Those could have been your 4 guys who you always associate with AEW. Like when I think of Goldberg, I don't think of WWE. I think of WCW.
Yeah.
Dudley Boys, while they dominated in WWE, I think of ECW. You know, even not for me, but even some people might even consider Hogan more AEW than WWE based off of when they started watching. You know, like a lot of
I think
kids
that
now were 90 kids, so they didn't watch Hogan in 85 jumping up in the air, dropping leg drops on Piper.
I
So like
guess
to
it
them,
has to do when you start watching.
what was that?
I guess it has to do when you started watching.
Right.
You
But
know,
like it's all up in the air. Like Taker, without a doubt, WWE guy.
hmm
Austin, Rock, all these guys, Triple H, WWE guys. Because WWE built them, even though they started elsewhere, WWE built them. With
yeah.
AEW, with it being so new, you literally could have did anything you wanted with any of these talents. Anything. There was
I was
nothing
so
holding you back.
excited about Wardlow. I said, "Wow, this guy is going to be the next big time star." And it just went all downhill from there. I was just like, "Okay, they just made him an." How do you fail that? It almost just it
It writes
blows my
itself.
mind. It I like I can you imagine? And I know people hate on him now, but can you imagine what Vince could have did. What him? Can you imagine what Triple H could do with him? Hell,
Yeah.
even a Paul Heyman. Can you imagine what a Paul Heyman could have done with Wardlow? And they're just treating him. He was in a match with FTR, and FTR is another team that they just don't appreciate much. He was in a match with FTR against Jay Lethal and the Motor City Machine Guns at All Out. You stuck him in a 6-man at All Out. You didn't even have a contender for the TNT title. You just stuck him in a 6-man.
All the
It was
bullshit matches they had before the show, you could have taken one of those guys and gave him to Wardlow.
15 matches. I had to suffer through 15 matches on All Out.
I
And
would
I'll
have
tell
called
you
in
what,
sick.
All Out, it will just touch on it again. It was, if I had to rate it out of 10, I'd give it a 5. And I know some people that
Why?
really liked it. It
Why
was
would you
just
give it a
put,
5?
it was booked horribly. It just, the booking of it made no sense. Some of the matches just were dead. I was looking forward to Jericho and Danielson, and by the time I got to it, I was tired. I just I was tired, and I couldn't. I got wrestling fatigue. I didn't want to watch any more wrestling. I just 15 matches is way too long. Kind of
I feel
reminded
that.
me of WrestleMania 35.
Oh, I know. We were there. Not
I was
together, but we
there.
were there. That was
I
terrible.
was there freezing my butt off watching a main event of Charlotte and Ronda and Becky, and I
And
knew
it
who was
takes
going to win.
away. And it takes away from that. When you're there for so
Yeah.
long, you're like, did I really need to see Samoa Joe squash Rey Mysterio?
No. Oh,
Did
that
that
was
need to
horrible. I went to the
happen?
bathroom for that.
You
I
probably didn't even
stood
get
for
back
the
in time.
I stood for the entrances because just I wanted to see the entrances, and then I went to the bathroom. I didn't even care what happened during the match. But and a good example of doing it right and less is more is Clash of the Castle. Clash of the Castle was fantastic. If anybody hasn't watched it,
I
please
want to
go
get
watch
into
it. It
that.
was a Clash of the Castle. You gotta go sit down and watch it. It was a great show. There was only like 6 or 7 matches on it. They all had meaning. They all had a storyline. It was perfect. It was
And
such a
we're
good
going to get
pay-per-view.
into Clash at the Castle after. I just want to wrap up on AEW, take a quick break, and then we'll go into Clash at the Castle. But I know I keep saying it because I started watching the Attitude Era.
Mhm.
I'm doing. At first I was just doing Raw, and then I was like, you know what? The pay-per-views during that time weren't that bad. And like I'll
Oh,
be
very
here
good.
where I am right now, sitting working, and like I'll listen to the TV in the other room, because I work from home and I do a podcast. I'm not going to listen to a podcast, so
Right.
I figured let me watch, and then I actually been jotting down some trivia questions too. So
Now there we go.
it's like it works both ways.
Yeah,
But
get some
like
questions out of it.
the way that they built The Rock went from Die Rocky Die to the
Mhm.
Nation to Rocky sucks to everybody eating out of the palm of his hand.
Yep.
The rise of The Rock, I feel like, needs to be studied more than the rise of like Goldberg. Like the way Goldberg
I agree.
became into his thing. Because
Yeah.
like with, and I'm going to say it again.
The thing with the Rock is you'll never find somebody like him ever again.
Rock and
It's
Austin,
just hard.
Rock, even during that time, Ken Shamrock felt like a major fucking player during the Attitude Era. Major player.
Right.
Even though he won King of the Ring and that was like, I guess, a dud. It really wasn't, because he was featured on every episode of Monday Night Raw. He was the Intercontinental Champion when Triple H was getting knee surgery. Just the way they built Ken Shamrock, a mid-carder.
Right.
He felt important. He's fighting Austin. You thought, holy shit, he could beat Austin. Fighting The Rock. Made The Rock tap out. So, like, for me, just to see how different guys back then were presented and pushed, I'm going to say the four people I said before, because their names are bigger now in AEW than when they weren't. Britt Baker, Darby Allin, Wardlow, MJF. Those could have been your four guys. You could have built the women's division around Britt Baker better than you did.
Well, Tony doesn't care about it. That's another thing. Tony doesn't care about his women's division. And he basically came out and said it when he said Thunder Rosa
was fucked
isn't
up
a draw. And that was just horrible. And it shows, too, that he doesn't care about his women's division, because last night Tony Storm had a know-nothing match nobody cared about, and the women were placed horribly on All Out. But go ahead.
Darby Allin could be your main mid-card guy or your big mid-card guy, because people like him. Orange Cassidy, maybe, but that needs a whole gimmick change. But Darby could have been your mid-card guy. MJF and Wardlow, your two big main eventers, and Britt Baker as your women's champion, as the leader of the women. You could have did this, but instead, and it goes back to the Thunder Rosa giving up her title compared to Punk.
In 8 seconds.
I saw that. Tony Khan made it clear, I want to say probably as soon as he opened the doors to AEW, that one of his goals was going to get Punk back to wrestling. Let Punk love wrestling again.
No,
Punk doesn't love wrestling as much as he fucking loves himself.
Loves the money that wrestling gives him.
That's the problem. Listen, and I am loving that all these old Triple H Punk promos from 2011 are coming back. He was 100% right. And whether or not there was real heat at the time between them, because we know there was afterwards, it's starting to look at like, should we have been chanting CM Punk for 5 fucking years every time we're in Chicago? Every time Stephanie's
I never
in the
did.
ring? Like,
I didn't care.
Listen, it's a cool chant. It has a cool ring. CM Punk. CM Punk.
Maybe a few weeks, maybe the first month when he was gone, and then after that, I was like, all right, whatever, he's gone.
Dude, listen, I would be at house shows. The Woo walking into MSG was matched with CM Punk. This is the guy that you fucking wanted back. This is the savior of wrestling, Mr. Straight Edge, Mr. more bitter than Bret fucking Hart, CM Punk.
Well, he idolizes Bret Hart, so maybe that's why he's bitter like him.
They're both fucking miserable people.
They're miserable. Meanwhile, Bret showed up. Bret was in the crowd, and they showed him for Clash of the Castle. So he shouldn't. I guess he's not that bitter. I don't understand anything. Bret acts like he hates everybody, but then shows up. And
especially hates Triple H. He never has anything good to say about Triple H. But you know what Triple H does? He doesn't give a shit, because he does what MJF said last night. Triple H does what's best for business.
Yep.
Tony Khan does what's best for his little fucking childhood ego, or whatever it may be, his inner child, to where he goes, oh, we missed Punk for 8 years. Let's bring back CM Punk. Like,
you know what? I'll say this. It was a good idea in the beginning. I was excited to see Punk. I was like, okay, let's see what happens. Maybe he's changed. And then as time went on, it just, you saw the writing on the wall. when I saw this happen, I wasn't surprised. I was like, "Oh, yeah, that seems about right."
Yeah, same. I wasn't surprised at all when he was going
Seems about
off.
right.
I just didn't understand what caused it. Like
Nothing,
I think I'm still a
nothing.
little confused by
No,
it.
nothing caused it. Punk just decided, "Okay, I'm gonna let all this off my chest right in front of everybody."
Which, if I'm MJF, I'm like, fuck you, bro, because this, you know, it's like how the summer of Punk was ruined when like he lost the title or like lost to Kevin Nash or whatever.
Right.
The fall, as in season, not like literal term, but like this could have been MJF's like fall slash winter. You know, summer's
I
done
it
with. He
still
took the
could be.
summer off.
It
It
still
could
could be.
be.
Punk's gone, the Elite's gone for now.
You know what?
I mean,
It
MJF lit it up last night, so maybe it
he
can
did
be.
light it up. He did, and I
I,
liked what he said that he works smarter, not harder. So he's not going to enter the tournament, and he's going to save his chip for when he's good
yeah,
and ready.
they
Which
did a good job.
it's literally the money in the bank. It's
Yeah,
money
it's
in the
the
bank.
money in the bank, only in chip form and circular
Yeah,
form. But I think they did it. The Dynamite last night was first half hour was really good, and then it kind of died off. Well, the Page and Danielson match kind of picked up. I think they did a good job moving forward, but then again, you at some point we're going to need to know what's happening with the, with the EVPs and Punk and what's the end result here. So I'm sure we'll find that out soon.
and here's the thing too, which I agree with you why it needs to be addressed because listen, Dave Meltzer tweeted out, or he broke the news that I'm pretty sure it's him that the Elite were suspended. Obviously, they were stripped. That's what
Yeah,
the rumor is that the Elite, the Bucks and Omega were suspended, which is why they were
yeah,
stripped of the titles.
right.
But
Yeah,
you didn't hear anything about Punk or Ace Steel, whatever,
Ace Steel, I
whoever the
think.
fuck that is.
Yeah, he's. I think he's on the suspended list. I think they're trying maybe to decide whether he's fired, or just suspended. Punk, the same thing. They don't, that right now everybody's just suspended, and we'll find out what happens. I guess once the investigation is over, because there is an in-house investigation going on with all of this. So I guess once that's over, we'll find out truly the outcome of everybody.
To put a nice bow on this,
Yeah.
what do you think should happen? Like, okay, two questions. If you were Tony Khan, what would you do? And as a fan, what do you think should happen?
If I was Tony Khan, well, I would have obviously stripped them of the titles, which he did, which good for him. And I think I fire Punk, fire Ace Steel because I don't even who cares, and keep the Elite suspended for a little while, bring them back maybe after a few months until the heat dies down, and I would strip them of the EVP title. I wouldn't. I I just don't like the fact that the competitors and the wrestlers have that much power. I just the thing doesn't sit right with me with that. So I would do that. I would fire Punk, suspend the Elite for a little while, and take away their EVP stature, and that's what I would do. That seems reasonable.
If if I was Tony Khan, I would probably first of all, if I was Tony Khan, I would hope someone would see how I was behaving and probably check me into a fucking mental hospital because I think that's where I belong. But for this scenario, if I'm Tony Khan, I suspend everybody, the Elite, and
Well, everybody is.
well, I would suspend the Bucks and Omega probably just for the month. Take the rest of the month off, cool off, take a couple of weeks, and Ace Steel. Listen, I'm gonna put it this way: if no one knows who you are, that means you haven't contributed anything to keep your job, and you're probably not that good. No one ever said, "Oh wow, that was a great match. Who produced it? Oh, that was Ace Steel.
He's
Oh
he's
wow, dope."
basically he has a job because he's Punk's friend and he was the first trainer of CM Punk. That's why he
Fired,
has a job. That's the
fired,
only reason. So just fire him.
fired,
Yeah,
fired.
just get
And
rid
then
of him.
CM Punk. I'm like, you know what, CM Punk? If I'm Tony Khan, I'm like, you like the theatrics? You like to put on a show? I'll put one on for you. CM Punk, you're fired.
There
And
you
he's
go.
done. Go
Yeah.
home, bang your schizo fucking wife, and then that's it. Because you haven't contributed anything positive to the wrestling community since you left after the 2014 Royal Rumble.
I just
See
find
ya.
it funny. I find it funny
Adios.
how some people are saying, "Well, maybe he'll go back to WWE." And I was like,
What?
"Please." I was like, "Please, no. I don't know." Triple H number one would never do that in a million years, and that's not happening. That's never gonna
He
happen.
he
2022
burned
is wild, but not that wild.
he burned every fucking bridge that he had left
Well,
Sunday
he's
night.
burning. Yeah,
Done.
unless he
Done.
wants to go to Impact.
He's
Unless he
done.
wants to go
He's
to Impact
listen.
in front of 10 people, but
He's done. I don't
yeah.
as a listen. I don't like him. Obviously, if anyone was listening for the
No,
past
I like
hour,
him.
I don't like fucking
He's not
CM
one of my
Punk.
personal favorites either. I liked him during that anti-authority um, feud with WWE. I liked him then, and I liked him in AEW with the MJF stuff. But other than that, I could do without him. I don't really care. I enjoy his work, but not
I
to this point.
I liked him up until the moment that I met him in Boston, and
So you're scarred by a
I
by a personal experience.
because it just rubbed me the wrong way because I
Yeah,
didn't have a bunch of bullshit in my hand. Hey, can you sign this? All I wanted was to say
that's Punk
hey
though.
and
That's
get a
Punk.
picture. And
He's
you
a
know what?
douche.
Take the CM out because that's all he is a gigantic fucking punk.
There you
He's a
go.
punk. That's it. He talks
I ain't
shit,
crazy about him.
calling 3 people out. And what do you think was gonna happen? Like, what did you
And then
honestly
he
think was
says,
gonna happen?
the best part of that is, well, if I'm going up and down the locker room and you have a problem with me, tell me about it. Well, they tried, but you hid in the locker. You hid in your locker
Yeah.
room and shut the door, and you wouldn't let them in. Oh my! It's just ridiculous.
All
But
right. All right. You know
let's
what?
move on. Let's move
We
on to
talked about this
Clash.
way too long. We got to take
Yeah.
a commercial break real quick. I got to write down the time so I can make sure that I put it in the right spot. That's what she said. Yeah, we're going to take a quick break. We're done talking about this bitch and then I want to get into Clash at the Castle and I guess Monday Night Raw after. Yeah.
We could talk a little bit about it. Yeah.
All right,
It
guys.
wasn't.
Hold on a second. We will be right back. And we're back. All right.
Oh.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for staying. Thank you for joining. We are the Wrestling Addicts. We are back, and we will not be talking about CM Punk anymore. Instead,
Please no.
I'm going out on a limb, and I'm going to say we're now going to talk about the better pay-per-view / PLE that happened this past weekend, and that is WWE Clash at the Castle.
Yeah, this coming from somebody that watched it all and did coverage onto this was definitely the better pay-per-view, definitely the better show. It made sense. All the
Yes.
matches had meaning. I ended that show off wanting to watch more. And that's
Thank
always what
you.
you need. That's always what you need in wrestling. All out, I was happy it was over. It should have been over, an hour before it did. But Clash of Castle was great. All of the match of the night, and I did a top 5 list too of the whole weekend. Sheamus and Gunther. I'll remember that one. That
might have been
one
the match
still
of the
is enough in my
weekend.
mind. Oh no, that
I-
was the match.
Match
For
of
me,
the
that was
weekend.
the match of the weekend. I had a top 5, and I put it at number 1. That was phenomenal. I didn't want to see it end. It was so good. That was the best Sheamus match I've ever seen, and I ain't even that big of a Sheamus fan, but wow, that was That was just unbelievable. The whole Imperium reuniting thing at the
Oh
start
yes.
was perfect. Oh, and then the match itself was 5 out of 5. I mean, it just there's nothing else you could say. It was just unbelievable.
Friends of mine wanted, they're like, oh, hey, you want to do a Labor Day barbecue? And I'm thinking, I'm like, I could do that. They're like, all right, cool. I'm like, cool. I'm like, what day you think? And I'm like, Sunday, Monday. They're like, now we're busy. Saturday. I'm like, sorry. I'm like, Saturday. I'm watching Clash at the Castle. And listen, I get, they were overseas, they were across the pond. But like
UK
for me,
crowd was fantastic.
love it. I love the crowd. I love the start time. 1:00. It was over by I think 4:30 because
Yeah,
then we went
around
some
4:30.
amazing. Like I still have the rest of my day, the rest of my night. It wasn't too long. It was and the match flow was I think was perfect. I think it flowed
Oh,
really good.
fantastic.
I enjoyed it a lot. It was probably one of my favorite pay-per-views of the year.
It just, I mean, it's so hard to get off the Sheamus and Gunther match because you could tell that they were in a fight. They were just beating the hell out of each other. There,
Yeah.
at one point, Sheamus's chest was like beat red. It looked like it was like a piece of meat. I mean, it just, oh, it's such a good. Gunther is very high on my list right now, and I
Yeah.
know some people were saying, "Oh, Sheamus should have won because the crowd would have popped for him." No, that's not. You have to look at the bigger picture, and Gunther is a part of that bigger picture. And with Imperium back now, that's just I can't wait for that.
If Gunther was champion for like maybe 9-10 months, I could see them doing that. But
Yeah.
the way Triple H is presenting the Intercontinental and United States Championships,
Oh, done an
phenomenal.
amazing job.
They're important again. The matches are important. You're not just having, contender matches to where they're losing as the champion and then they win their title. It's just everything is perfect and it's just lining up the right way.
He's done a great job.
The Sheamus Gunther match was just so good. It was so physical. You know what? You thought maybe Sheamus might win. It's the last one he needs.
Yeah, for Grand Slam, and
it's
I
didn't want him to win. Back.
I didn't want him to win just because Gunther's such on a roll. You want Gunther to continue.
Yeah.
He's a part of some big plans. So, I didn't see Sheamus winning, but it's just a match of the weekend for me. But then you had obviously Drew and Roman main event, and that was, I think, on my top 5 list, it was number 2. That was just a great. If I'm comparing main events, Moxley and Punk was good. It was it's in my top 5 for the weekend, but it ain't over Drew and Roman. Drew and Roman was, oh my God, it was they had that crowd in the palm of their hands.
I was just gonna say that. And listen, I'm watching it. My wife even started sitting down. My wife even said she's not even a big fan. She doesn't watch it all the time. She even goes, "Wow, that Sheamus and that other guy." She goes, "Who's that other guy?" I'm like, "Gunther." She goes, "Well, that's a stupid name." I'm like, "That's a different story."
That's a different story.
But she even said that match was great, and she was with me for most of the pay-per-view. She goes, "This may be one of the best pay-per-views that she's watched because it just flew by and it was good. It was really good." The crowd. I honestly thought at one point in time that Drew was going to win.
Oh, me too. When he hit that last Claymore, I was like, "Oh my God, Drew's going to win." And then obviously Solo Sikoa at the end drags out the referee, which I at the time I wasn't crazy about it just because not everybody knows who Solo Sikoa is. And I guarantee you some of the people in that crowd was like, "Oh wait, was that one of the Usos?"
Yeah.
I guarantee you some people in the crowd thought like, oh, one of the Usos just cost Drew the match. Like, I don't know if everybody knows who Solo Sikoa is, but
They will tomorrow.
They will tomorrow. Once a few hours went by, I was like, okay, it makes more sense. It's a huge debut for Solo Sikoa. I'm always gonna forget him now. So
Yeah.
it made sense after a while.
And that's the perfect way to look at it because this is their first stadium event in the UK, in 30 years.
Yeah, right.
So like
Yep.
and from what I heard, it's going to be a yearly thing to where they
It better be. It better be.
which is good. Get the fuck out of Saudi Arabia and go to the UK. Enough with this crown oil bullshit. Get out of there. It's done with. Hopefully the contract that they have with fucking Prince Ali's not that fucking long, and they could get out of there ASAP because, listen, and it's not where they go. It's the crowd that's there is a bunch of fucking camels and people who aren't wrestling fans. So it's like, what are you doing? You're better off going back to the Thunderdome and putting those LED screens back up. You'll get a better reaction. But for me,
that UK crowd was just fantastic, and it better be a yearly thing. Hell, they should put a WrestleMania there. I'm saying that they should have a WrestleMania be in the UK.
I am all for a 1 p.m. start time WrestleMania. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But back to 2 days at 1 o'clock, I'm done. I'll go. I'll fly to the UK. I'm like, holy shit, 1 o'clock?
Hey,
like,
listen,
that's great.
UK's having a tough day today.
Oh, yeah. R.I.P. to the Queen.
R.I.P. to the Queen.
Not
Queen Charmel.
Yeah. Or
not Queen Charmel.
Yeah, not Queen Charmel. Not Queen Zelina.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I got to write that down real quick. I want to talk about that before we finish. But what I want to say about Solo, I like that he debuted. It was a big thing for him. And I think it could lead to like a Sami Zayn Solo feud, which would be good.
Maybe.
But like honestly, you know what? That's the thing though. So much could happen. It could either be Sami and Solo. I know Owens is
Sami
on
and
Raw.
KO. Yeah, I'm thinking Sami and KO are going to be the ones that take the Usos belts.
I think so. I think that would be good. This isn't a thing where you can just like you don't need an established tag team to take the belts off. Or I'm sorry. You don't need an up-and-coming tag team to take the tag titles off them. I think KO and Sami will be the best ones to take those titles off the Usos. And then maybe Solo could go for like, I don't know, the US or the IC title. Down the line, obviously, earn it. But there's just so much that can be done. And I love that they added him to the bloodline. And I can't wait to hear the story.
Too. Yeah.
Because, his thing in NXT was that they all left him behind, that he's solo. So I don't know if there's going to be a name change or whatever, but you know what? Solo. Because you know why he's solo? Because we're the ones. Like, there's literally so much that you could do. And with Triple H in charge, I have a feeling that this kid is going to have a really, really promising career with his brothers and cousin.
I could see it. Roman winning was the right move.
It was necessary.
It was needed. There's big things coming for him, and I think we know what those big things are. But yeah, you smell that? Yeah, what's that? But
it smells like someone's cooking.
Yeah, I wonder who. But he had to win that match. Drew, it would have been great to see Drew win, but in the long run, Roman needed to win. He needed to win. I know that crowd wanted to see him win. Hey, I even wanted to see him win after a while. I wanted to see that big pop, but business-wise, Roman needs to win.
My pointer was in the air every time Roman had a pin. I was like, get it! And then, Drew kicked out. Yeah. Great match.
Hey, Riddle and Seth was great.
Seth Rollins Okay. Seth Rollins is the MVP for the year, while Roman
yeah.
is, the fucking man right now. He might be PWI's number one. I
Should
think
be.
Rollins has to be like a 1A or like a number 2 because
He's unbelievable.
in wrestling, wins
That's
and
why
losses matter.
that
Obviously,
Monday Night Messiah crap was just so horrible. I'm happy they got away from that, and now they're just Seth Rollins just being a badass.
he doesn't even have a gimmick anymore. He's
just Seth Rollins.
He's just Seth Rollins, and
Yeah.
I love it because it's, even though he lost like 5 pay-per-view matches in a row, I think this is his first pay-per-view win since January.
It's been a while.
When he did the Shield, when he came out for the Shield, he won by DQ.
Yeah, by DQ against Roman. That's right.
This is his first pinfall victory on a pay-per-view, probably since last year, and he hasn't lost any momentum. He dropped 3 in a row to Cody, and no one batted an eye like, oh, Rollins isn't a quality contender. They still wanted him to win Money in the Bank.
If Rollins and Cody is not rivalry of the year, then I don't. Then who? Then
it has
who?
To be.
It has to be. It was just so amazing.
It would be. You know what? I'm not going to mention his name. We spent too much time. I'm not going to mention his name.
Yeah, please. Oh God, not again.
But
yeah, it was great. Rollins is great. Great match.
I called. Listen, I should have tweeted it, but I'm sitting with my wife. I'm like, oh, he's gonna hit the stomp from the top rope. I'm like, that's gonna be fucking crazy. But I'm like, top rope stomp. He did it from the second rope. So like, I kind of felt it. I kind of called it, and it's the little things. And it's the little things that I love and I appreciate in wrestling because it just ties everything together. He did the stomp from the second rope. To me, that made Riddle look strong.
Yeah,
even though he lost,
Riddle look great.
Yeah, because
Seth needed that win.
Oh, Seth needed the win. Seth needed the win for sure, and Rollins did. Riddle, didn't look weak at all.
Yeah.
The fact that he kicked out of the pedigree, I think the normal stomp he kicked out of
the pedigree that surprised me, kicking him out of that, because
me too.
You know who's in charge, and
I know. I started looking in the back. I'm like, yo, is Triple H like? Did Triple H peek out? Like what?
Yeah, that one surprised me a bit. I was like, ooh.
It's not Triple H's pedigree. That's why. Triple H's pedigree is the finish.
I was just surprised. I was surprised. I was like, wow.
Me too.
All right. That's all right. He's like, people kick out of his move.
But for great matches, but for the Gunther and Sheamus match alone,
that's number one. Yeah.
Go watch it. If you did not watch Clash at the Castle, do yourself a favor. There's nothing on tonight wrestling wise. Go watch it. It's definitely worth it. And did you want to touch anything else on Clash?
Yeah, Dominic Mysterio turning on Edge and Ray.
Oh, that was a Clash. Holy shit, I forgot about that.
That was big. That was big. They had a nice segment on Raw about it. They're having Edge. That's right. Edge and Dom versus. That'll be next week.
Yes, and before we get into Raw, because I just have to get in one last commercial break. When Edge and Rey Mysterio won, I'm like, Judgment Day's buried. I'm like, they're buried. I'm like, it doesn't make, like, to me, I'm like, it didn't make sense. Like, right in the moment, it was a knee-jerk reaction.
I knew it had to happen.
I'm like, because you know what? For me, if Dom's going to turn, cost them the win.
Yeah.
You know, like why did Edge and Rey Mysterio have to win? Did they win for the fans?
No, they had to win because it made the Dom turn more unexpected. And like if Dom just helped the Judgment Day win, that would have been kind of lame. So it was more of a shocker to do it after the match, and I liked how they did it. And
Yeah.
by the way, Edge is super over.
Oh, yeah. They're
Is
singing this
Edge is
song. On this
Edge,
day,
which is a
I
great
see
song.
clearly.
Um, yeah, Edge is over like nobody else is right now.
I did like it after I came back down. It's because everything happened so fast. I'm like, oh, just what they lost. I'm like, they're buried. What are they doing? They need to add people, not and stop losing. And then once Dom is in the ring, my wife's like, he's gonna attack them. I'm like, what? And then he kicked Edge right in the dick. I was like,
Yep. Yep.
whoa.
That
I'm like, yeah,
clothesline to
bub. You
Ray.
called it, bub. I was like, holy
That
shit.
clothesline, that
Dude.
clothesline to Ray was stiff. Ray had to say something like, "You
One-
better knock me out."
100%. He probably said, if you're gonna do this, do it the right way.
Yeah, and it made him look
And
great. It made him look great.
he definitely did. So all these things we're saying, do yourself a favor, go watch Class at the Castle.
I have a top
And
five. I have a
top
top five
five.
for people. If you haven't seen it on Twitter, number one, Gunther and Sheamus. Number two, Roman Reigns and Drew. Number three is the Trios Championship with Kenny Omega and the Bucks versus Dark Order and Adam Page. That was a great match. Number four, Carmelo Hayes and Ricochet. If you're gonna watch anything on NXT Worlds Collide, go watch that match. It was fantastic. And then my fifth match was Punk and Moxley, just for the story they told and the psychology of that match. It was pretty good. So that's my top five for the long weekend of wrestling.
So make sure you guys go check out Sal's top five. Great matches from a great weekend. We have just a little more we want to cover, and I'm going to take another quick and short commercial break, and then we'll wrap up a few roster moves that happen on Raw and AEW. Hold on, and we will be right back. And we're back. All right. Thank you for coming back. This is the last thing that we have to discuss. And, you mentioned Black before. Was it officially released that Malachi Black, a.k.a. Aleister Black, was released
He's
from
done.
AEW?
Yes, that is a report out there. He is done. And mostly from what I am hearing, due to mental health. So he's having some problems. So he has to, we wish him the best. And,
Yeah, absolutely.
fix all of that and, get to a good place. But, yeah, he's done. And it's really just a shame because oh my God, he came into AEW on fire. It just with the Cody Rhodes feud he had to start was fantastic, and then it just all went downhill from there. It felt like it just, I don't know what happened creatively. I think it didn't work out with the House of Black, and I wasn't crazy when he did that with the whole House of Black stuff because he's better off as a single.
Yeah.
And it went downhill after the Cody feud, and it's a shame because the Cody feud was great and it made Malachi Black like $1 million. And then shortly after that, it was just like, all right, he's in.
And even the way he came in too, because WWE fucked up, and he had a 30-day instead of a 90-day no compete.
Yeah.
So his debut in AEW was really unexpected. 2 months earlier, unexpected. And then just the way he's been booked, the rumor is that he's going through a divorce from Zelina. I read somewhere.
I didn't even hear that one.
I mean, I hope it's not true because it's go love, but it's unfortunate that coming out it's more negative that's coming out from AEW than the positive that we had a year ago.
There's no positive. There's no positives with AEW right now. I mean, they put on a good show last night, but yeah, nothing is coming out good. But I think we do have some good news, but on the other side,
Yeah. You know what? It was rumored for a couple of days leading up to Monday. And then, there's a fatal four-way tag team championship, number one contenders match on Raw.
Yep.
Middle of the match, all of a sudden, whoa! Fucking Braun Strowman
yep.
makes as much. Dude, okay, so Braun Strowman debuted on Raw. Leading up to it, there were the rumors all over Twitter that he was signed and he was going to be on Raw. And everyone on Twitter was like, why? Why? It didn't work out.
You can't
It's past his prime.
Can't listen to the IWC.
Dude,
Please,
terrible.
You gotta ignore it.
Me, I like Braun. I like a guy that size. You could easily repackage and make people forget about what happened, because that's what Triple H is doing with Cross. He's doing it with Karrion Kross. That pathetic Monday Night Raw run that he had, that short run, Cross, everybody's forgetting about it. While Braun obviously was on the main roster longer, had title runs.
Champion, yeah, he was a Universal Champion.
Yeah. It was
what did he beat Goldberg? They had to beat Goldberg. I mean, it was at the PC WrestleMania, but still had to beat him.
Beat Goldberg.
Yeah, he still beat Goldberg.
I like Braun. And apparently,
so
12,000 other people liked him. I don't know how many people in the arena, but
that ovation was
the place erupted. The place erupted for him. Holy shit, that was awesome.
I wasn't expecting that much of I wasn't expecting that. I was like, wow, that crowd just went insane. Like I said, it's like Stone Cold just came out or something. They went crazy.
I didn't expect it. I'm laying down on the couch. I'm watching it. I'm like, this is honestly a cool tag team match. I'm like,
it was good.
I'm like, I guess the brand split no one cares about, because 2 are from SmackDown, 2 are from Raw. But
yeah, nobody.
I don't really give a shit about that.
Nobody. It just, that's all. They'll get to a draft at some point.
Yeah, it's, for me, that was like whatever. But then, like, his music hit and he laid everybody out. Yeah, he tripped. Big whoop-de fucking do.
I didn't even notice it, to be honest.
I didn't notice it either. It wasn't even, thank God the hard camera didn't get it, but
hey, Batista tripped in WrestleMania 35.
Yeah.
He tripped coming in the ring.
Yeah, go laugh at him. But for me, I like it. I like to see where it's going. He's going to be on SmackDown Friday. He's going to be part of the SmackDown brand. So literally Triple H is going to take care of us. Let's see who gets these hands. Yep. And then it's funny because I saw people on Twitter. They're like, why would he interfere in a tag team match? Like, what was the point of even having that?
I think it was to just have him beat up as many people as he can.
Yeah.
Just
then people are like, yeah. And like the IWC, like, oh, well, now the tag team division's buried because one guy took out 8 people. A great way to recover from this would be Triple H is back in charge. 1 month from today, I think, is Extreme Rules. It's in Philly. Bring back the tag team title TLC match. Put those 4 teams in there with the Usos and give us a banger. That would be cool. I know it's not going to happen, but like I tweeted that out. I'm like, yo, wouldn't that be cool if we get a TLC tag match again? Because Braun laid everybody out. But like if those same 4 teams have a match on SmackDown tomorrow and Braun does the same thing again, then it's like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, do something with him. Have him.
They should do something different. But, yeah, we have Johnny Gargano on Monday. He'll be making his in-ring return.
Let's go.
You got Edge versus Dom on Monday. So the excitement is in the air. And I'm I'm sure we're gonna find out maybe sooner rather than later when what happens with all this Punk and
Yeah.
EVPs and
Who?
wait a minute, yeah, who?
Who? Fuck that guy. Who? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You know what? I guess it would depend on what happens from now until Monday to see if we'll have a Monday show. But if you're interested in wrestling trivia, maybe we could do that on Monday, guys.
Yeah.
Lots could happen. Lots has been happening, but we are over our time. It's now dinner time, and
Yes,
the
it
wife is looking at me with her hands crossed, tapping her foot.
That means to wrap it up.
That means wrap it up. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we are the Rasslin Addicts, and we will see you. Whoops, 1 second. Sorry, little technical difficulties. Just trying to make this the best podcast ever. Thanks for joining. We will see you guys on Monday. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check out us on Spotify, Apple, anywhere you could find the podcast.
Anywhere you can find us.
That's where we are. Catch us on Twitter, and we hope to see you guys next time.
See you guys later.